translation, and no further. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra, just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. He was observed by the child who thought about who he was. Responsibly. The Lord was thus engaged. In vanquishing the radiation. Of the Brahmastra. Just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. He was observed by the child. Who thought about who he was. Who? 11. Okay. Vidhuyatan Amiyatma. Our friend? Yes, our friend. Amiyatma. Vidyutad Amiyatma Bhagavan Dharma Vibhu Mishato Dashamasasya Tatraivatan Pradadi Tadi Hari. What does that Amiyatma mean? The all-pervading super soul. Yeah, Amiyat. Not only in your heart, but in my heart too. Translation. While thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul of everyone and the protector of the righteous, who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. Purport. Child Parikshit was not observing a living being who was limited by time and space. There is a gulf of difference between the Lord and the individual living being. The Lord is mentioned herein as the supreme living being, unlimited by time and space. Every living being is limited by time and space, even though a living being is qualitatively one with his Lord. Quantitatively, there is a great difference between the supreme soul and the common individual soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, both the living beings and the supreme being are said to be all-pervading. Yena sarvam idam pratam. Yet there is a difference between these two kinds of all-pervasiveness. The common living being or soul can be all-pervading within his own limited body, but the supreme living being is all-pervading in all space and all time. The common living being cannot extend his influence over another common living being by its all-pervasiveness, but the supreme soul, the personality of God, is unlimitedly able to exert his influence over all places and all times, over all living beings. And because he is all-pervasive, unlimited by time and space, he can appear even within the womb of the mother of child Parikshit. He is mentioned herein as the protector of the righteous. Anyone who is a surrendered soul under the Supreme is the righteous, and he is specifically protected by the Lord in all circumstances. The Lord is the indirect protector of the unrighteous also, for he rectifies their sins through his external potency. The Lord is mentioned herein as one who is dressed in the 10 directions. This means dressed with garments on 10 sides, up and down. He is present everywhere and can appear and disappear at his will from everywhere and anywhere. His disappearance from the sight of the child Parikshit does not mean that he appeared on the spot from any other place. He was present there, and even after his disappearance he was there, although invisible to the eyes of the child. This material covering of the effulgent firmament is also something like a womb of the mother nature. And we are all put into this womb by the Lord, the Father of all living beings. He is present everywhere, even in this material womb of Mother Durga, and those who are deserving can see the Lord. Amagyanitimirandasya janaganasalakayam sattvirmilitam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Shapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Upakaramaya Dadatita Padantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Radha Shiva Sri Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, in proportion to we surrender to the Lord, that much we're righteous. People like to think righteousness is some moral idea, but those same people will criticize Krishna for being immoral. So we have to know who is Krishna. Here's a nice description of him from the Paramatma side, how he's all pervading. And we should also know his personal pastimes and attributes. And when we surrender there, we become really righteous. Not this so-called righteousness of the morality of this material world, which is always shifting. According to time and circumstances, changing. 50 years ago, it was considered immoral to do this or that. Now it's considered okay. And 100 years from now, who knows what the morality will be. So real righteousness then is surrender to the Lord. So what is the difficulty? Why we don't want to be really righteous? Because we're demoniac. We have demoniac mentality. We excuse ourselves. It's easy to excuse ourselves. We're expert at that, to rationalize. Oh well, I had to do it, I couldn't help it. When we serve Maya, we excuse ourselves. But the super soul is there, witnessing, like two birds on a tree. He's everywhere, all pervading, inside, outside. So we can excuse, but how will it be allowed to be excused? No, we have to suffer or enjoy according to our karma. Therefore, we're advised to give up the fruitive mentality, the karmi mentality, because that may bring us happiness when we're successful, but then it'll bring us distress. Just like in the big depression in this country in 1929, rich men were jumping out of buildings in New York, so many. They lost their whole fortune. They thought, what is the use of life? So they committed suicide. Because they were just accepting that this is the measure of my worth, how much money I have. And they had that, when they were making money, then they felt very happy. Then when they lost money, they felt very depressed. So we were talking about this yesterday, right? The frenzy of love and frenzy of hate. That goes for other persons. We have that for other living entities, and we also have it for material nature. Therefore, Krishna emphasizes sama sarvesa bhuteshu. We should be equal to everyone and equiposed in our, in our circumstances. Yatena kampa anamana shikshumaham.
Munjana ega nikritan vidvag bakur vir vidham namaste jiveta yomukti padaya.
Translation?
That the devotee, even though he undergoes so many different sufferings, he thinks this is just due to my past reactions. But actually, by undergoing difficulties for the service of Krishna, it becomes his rightful claim to go back to God.
If he can, in the core of his heart, if he remains faithful to Krishna, even in those reverses, he doesn't criticize Krishna or think, oh, why this happened to me? I'm so righteous. Why is this? Then he becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God, just like the son is eligible. Of course, that's in the patriarchal society, but that used to be even in the Western world. The son inherited, the eldest son. It's like Yudhisthira inherited the kingdom.
Primogeniture.
What's it called?
Primogeniture.
Primogeniture.
Primogeniture, the eldest son inherits the
Yeah.
throne.
So, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, that's no longer prevalent, but it is a good system. Then there's no fighting over their kingdom. Just like the Pandavas. They all cooperated with Yudhisthira. But in the Muslim, they don't have that clear. So Aurangzeb killed his brothers and put his father in jail. Because they don't have that same system. So the brothers kill each other, so who will inherit the kingdom or the house. Of course, there was even intrigue in the Mahabharata where Dhritarashtra didn't accept the tradition that the blind king can't be king, so Pandava was king, and his son became king. But anyway, there's always misuse even of a good thing. That's why it's become perverted. But we're traditionalists. That's why we're not in favor of the Ritviks. There's no tradition for the previous acharya of giving diksha to people who are no longer, when he's no longer present. There's no tradition. I mean, you may say, well, Prabhupada could do it, Prabhupada could do anything, but why would Prabhupada break a tradition like that? No, he did choose some people. Not that we can't have our main connection with Prabhupada, we can. I was giving that point in class in the last one. That Prabhupada is there, depending on how much you want him. But if you really want him, then why will you not cooperate with the system that he left? Just like he told us, we should manage the way we manage. So the Ritviks, they said, no, we don't care for the GBC, but that's the system that Prabhupada left. If you say you love Prabhupada, but you don't want to cooperate with his system, at least, the very least, you should not criticize the system that Prabhupada left. If you can't work with the GBC, okay, then you can work on your own somehow. But don't try to, don't go out of your way to criticize them, which is what they do. They go to Arathi yatras and steal out their flyers. Don't follow, they're evil. They have their magazines and stuff, they're openly blaspheming the GBC, they killed Prabhupada and so on. So that's the danger. Once you start becoming independent, then lives in Alachua still. Just by chance, I was looking for Kirti Raj's house and I knocked on his house.
Oh, you went to his house?
Yeah. His wife entered the door, she said, oh, Maharaj. And then I said, well, I haven't seen him in a long time. Could I say hello? Sannyasi coming to your door. And she said, wait 1 minute, let me see what she wanted. She left the mother. Own way. So
that is the poison. The poison in the mind.
Yeah.
Poison if they're really connected to.
Yeah, they're poison to you. So we should try to cooperate, even if it's not possible to fully cooperate. At least we should. And they said, Prabhupada, we can't tolerate the idea you're going to go in a bullock's cart. No, I did not want that this should happen. And then he turned to Babaji and said, see how much they love me? See how much they love me? Yeah, where's the connect? If they were really poisoning Prabhupada in a diabolical way, Prabhupada could have called me or someone else, independent-minded person of his disciples who were there, Guru Kripa or somebody, and said, and tell him, I think there's a plot to kill me. Please take me away from here. Really? That's right. There was no such plot.
If they wanted to kill him, they would have said, okay, go on the bullet. But they couldn't allow Prabhupada to go because it was...
Bhakti Uchu said the same. your suffering just by turning your body, because you have to turn his body, you know. And the bullets started bouncing in the potholes, and they were really pained that Prabhupada was going to suffer. So, I don't know where we are in this whole thing, but back to the verse. Okay, any questions? Well, one point is that how Krishna is promises Kunteya Pratijanani Mami Bhakta Nashiti. I'll protect my devotee. So here he's showing personally how he's arranging that to protect his devotee, innocent devotee. He protected Arjuna. He made it sort of look like the sun had set. You know, on the battlefield, Arjuna had taken a vow he was going to kill Jagat. And then again the sun came. Just at that time, maybe. Okay. Otherwise Arjuna would have ventured into the fire. He took a vow. I'll kill that person who killed my son before the sunset tomorrow. Krishna said, why do you make a vow like that? Well, I think it roots this. So, Krishna protects. So why don't we want to become devotees? Faithless probably must say. Okay, any comments? Bhagavatam ki.